Hi everybody. You know, fragments of information are traveling about the internet like disembodied heads. We're supposed to assume from the disembodied head what the form of the body looks like. What I mean is, people are giving me pieces of information that are supposed to prove things. Here's a piece of information, doesn't it prove this? And it's just a piece of information, not enough to prove anything. I meet this guy, he says hello. Then I said something, then he got upset. Then he fell to the ground, at which point he bit my foot. Subsequently, he fell on a knife and died. That's one side of the story. Could you imagine the other side of the story? They leave out critical parts of the story to make their story look better. If you don't include both sides of the story, then you're just a talking head extremist. You're just an extremist on one side. When you include both sides of the story, you're all of a sudden a news agency. You're a reliable source for information. Very seldomly can I go anywhere and get both sides of the story. Here's a little secret I use. If you're supporting a particular cause and someone else has a cause that rivals your cause, it's best that you not only know your good side, but the bad things they're going to say about you, and then you address them before your enemies can reach them. That way, you control the spin on the negative information. If you hide from the negativity that's coming at you and only address the positive stuff, you will not appear credible when they start addressing you. Here's an example. You're selling a miracle snake oil supplement. And next to you, an aisle down, there's another guy selling another snake oil supplement. Cleavon's snake oil supplement. And Joe is selling his supplement down there. I'm losing customers because Joe is telling everybody that my supplement causes headaches. What I say is, you know, my supplement's the best supplement out there, and Joe over there is saying my stuff causes headaches. It's not true. As a matter of fact, I will give you a free bottle, and I'll guarantee you will not get a headache. If you do get a headache, I'll give you twice your money back and a free bottle of aspirin. Now, I completely control the situation, and I've controlled the spin before they could get to him. So then when they show up at Joe's booth, and Joe says, hey, that stuff will give you a headache, they're like, handled, don't worry about it. We already talked to Cleavon. We're cool. Control the negative spin against you. It's the most powerful thing you can do. And in order to control it, you got to deal with it. Some sites where people are trying to prove to me that it's perfectly acceptable in Islam to kill people for saying anything bad about Islam, drawing pictures or whatever. And I think there's a debate there. But here's a fact. Here's a fact that I keep getting. The fact is, hey, Mohammed adjudicated on a particular case where a Muslim man strangled a Jewish woman to death for besmirching the character or good name of Islam or the Prophet. Mohammed had awarded no blood money in this case. And that's the information, that's the sole piece of information. That's not enough information to prove anything. Once, a man came up and choked Mohammed to nearly death. Mohammed didn't do anything. He didn't prosecute the guy. So if Mohammed didn't prosecute someone choking him and didn't ask for any blood money, did Mohammed proclaim at that moment that it was perfectly acceptable to walk up to Muslims and choke them to near death? So this case doesn't prove anything. It's as if saying he awarded no blood money, which made it sound like it's perfectly legal to strangle anybody who talks bad about the Prophet or about Islam. If we use that same logic, we could say Jesus, toward the end of the Bible, I remember reading, these guys brought in this woman who was an adulterer. And in the end, Jesus says, look, any of you wants to cast the first stone on her, whoever is free of sin. Any of you guys who are like sin-free, cast the first stone. All the men filed out. The woman got off the hook. So someone could say, well, you know, at that point, Jesus basically said, hey, go for it. Adultery, adultery's cool. We're good with adultery because Jesus adjudicated and let this woman walk free from committing adultery. Muhammad lets a guy walk free for murder. We let people walk free from murder all the time. There are extenuating circumstances. We don't know all the details. Just the fact that the case had to be adjudicated proves that the Muslim community knew that it wasn't okay to strangle someone from any faith. If things were as bad as what they were saying, you figure when a Muslim guy strangled this Jewish gal for saying bad things about Muhammad, that they would have just let it go. So, hey, that's not a crime. But the fact is, they all knew they had to bring this guy to trial. And Muhammad I think, let the guy off. They were talking about blood money, but I never saw anything about whether he was convicted or whatever happened. But we let murderers go. You know, O.J. Simpson, who was pretty clearly a murderer, ended up walking free. And is that saying, hey, America, we decided that you can kill your ex-girlfriend with a knife and it's perfectly legal? That isn't what happened. There are more details to the case. So people shouldn't go around throwing these little floating fragmented pieces of information and trying to use them to prove points, because they don't prove anything. Dan White tried to kill President Reagan, and he ended up not getting charged with murder because he had eaten a bunch of Twinkies and got they call it the Twinkie defense. He got hyped up on sugar, coupled with some other issues, that ended up creating what they call diminished capacity. And they proved that at that particular time, he didn't have the capacity to know what he was doing, so he got off the hook. And at that point, did the American government say, hey, this proves that it's perfectly fine to try to kill our president? That's not what happened. So when you hear Mohammed let this guy go, didn't make him pay any blood money for killing this Jewish woman, for besmirching the character of Islam, it doesn't prove anything. Either way, there may be more details, and I'm sure people are going to give me more details about this story. And the information I'm being given that I'm supposed to mentally adjudicate myself on and decide, well, that proves it. That proves right there that Muhammad says it's perfectly fine. It doesn't prove anything. It's just a little soundbite. It means nothing without the body of evidence that backs it up. You go to a site where they're trying to prove their point that the cartoonist should be killed. Why aren't there any quotes there about Muhammad and the trash thrower? Lady throws trash in his face. He ends up caring for her. We can't rely on these sources. So please don't be a left-wing or right-wing radical. Get the information from both sides. You know, they did a little study with Christian kids in America. Very intelligent Christian kids and very intelligent atheist kids. And they interviewed, and the atheist kids knew as much about the Christian argument for their belief as the Christian kids did, but the Christian kids didn't know anything about the atheist argument. So the atheists were all well informed about atheism, about Christianity, about the other faiths. The Christian kids, for the most part, were really well informed about Christianity, knew nothing about atheism or any of the other faiths. Why is it that they were so closed and not willing to learn the whole spectrum? So, and reporting the whole spectrum is really important.